I've been trying to reflect on the conversations today and over the last few years and trying to see where we're getting to and how we take this forward. We've heard a lot today about how research can contribute to development, how publishers are helping to connect and make connections within the business across different business units to bring together all your different initiatives and work to support developing country research and access. How the consortia are working really hard to strengthen their organizational foundations, get their management and decision-making structures in place and their processes, so that they can deliver access across the whole national research system, across all universities and research institutes. I think we're all agreed, as we have been for a long time, that there's a real commitment here and a wish to ensure that what we're doing is really supporting development across all of these countries. It's impossible to imagine any of us here disagreeing with that. But we know we also have to navigate here some difficult territory. It isn't easy. There are steps forward, steps back, responding to emerging situations, working out where things don't quite go to plan and how we can respond to those. So I'm going to try and bring it together in a few closing thoughts, but it's by no means the end of a conversation. We know that one size doesn't fit all. So just as we are working with many countries and consortia in different university and research environments and national contexts, you represent a whole range of publishers across a whole spectrum of missions, sizes, scale, disciplinary focus. So we know this is this has to accommodate lots of different needs and constraints. I think in this room we are all individuals with a personal commitment to this, personal motivations, but we've all got some degree of power and influence in our different institutions, within our organizations, and in talking to colleagues at different levels. And we need to find a way to have those conversations and persuade others, and try and influence the way we all think, so that we can transform the approaches and the ways of working, which mean we can really make this happen for a sustainable future. We've heard a bit today about the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's clear to anybody that the world faces innumerable challenges. These have been brought together at the highest level in 16 goals, and then a 17th goal, which is the partnership to achieve them. There's a list in your packs. I think sometimes it's easy to forget that what we're dealing with here is really important knowledge that could really transform lives and livelihoods, our planet. We're talking here about research and knowledge that can contribute to basic sanitation, to hunger, disease, education, decent work, rising sea levels, a warming planet. So this is really important stuff. And in INASP, we know that global challenges aren't going to be met if we, as a community, don't harness and nurture the global talent needed to achieve those goals. And that's the talents of researchers, of policymakers, of people delivering services in different countries and solving problems in many different forms and ways. And these are global issues and they're local issues, so they're as much about addressing big, complex challenges that cut across countries and territories to looking at research in the forests of Ghana, as Margaret talked about. And I think, as you've heard today, the work we do together is absolutely essential in enabling Southern research to prosper. So it's access to the latest research and the back catalogues that's the essential foundation. And it brings that critical content to the desktops, to the field sites, and to the laboratories of Southern researchers. And onto that foundation, we need to build support to ensure Southern researchers can increase the visibility of their work, so it's published and made available to the world, and we can connect with the people and communities who need to use research to answer various problems and questions, so that the research we're doing and we are supporting is answering some of those fundamental needs. So just over 4 years ago, we began to make a transition. We've always aimed to build local capacity. That's always been what INASP aimed to do and the way we set about working with partners, with the ultimate aim of building ourselves out of the picture. So we've always worked with local library partners, local library consortia, and this full range of skilled individuals and leaders that you've met some of today. But that takes time. Building lasting capacity is not an easy thing to do. But 4 years ago, it was really clear to us that there were enough changes in the world around us, so changes in scholarly publishing and communication, in the international development sector, which is where we sit and how we're funded. Lots of new drivers we had to respond to. So it was obvious that we had to take some definite steps to move forward, anticipating what was changing around us, and preparing our partners for new ways of working. So US publishers and consortia in our partner countries. Some publishers were looking to develop direct relationships in those emerging markets and growing higher education and research systems, but also many of our partners were stronger, growing in confidence, and wanted to take these relationships forward directly. But we also knew, as INASP, that our funding wouldn't go on forever. So we've been extraordinarily lucky for 15 years to be generously funded by the UK government through DFID, by Sweden through the Swedish Development Agency, and previously by Denmark and Norway. But we knew that funding wouldn't continue forever, and we couldn't play this role indefinitely. A lot of that funding has been public funding, a lot of it from the UK taxpayer, so you can imagine the pressures from the UK perspective, and it's not surprising that in the current environment it's harder to make the case for this kind of work. So we began the process with you all here to hand over some of those responsibilities and relationships. We began with a list of principles for publishers first, and then for consortia, actually, as well, so that we made clear and explicit what we thought was necessary for a responsible and sustainable transition. So these were covering the importance of affordable access, national consortia deals, predictable multi-year pricing arrangements, but also on the consortia side, good business relationships, timely and responsive communications, keeping the noise of IP changes to a minimum. And then we started looking at the details, so the processes, the paperwork, the links in the chain, which needed to be working better. And we began an even deeper process of working with our partners to help them build the capacity they would need. So from the knowledge and skills to negotiate, developing good business relationships, to improving decision-making structures and processes in the consortia, executive committees and management groups, driving usage in the universities, monitoring that usage, understanding who needed what, making more informed purchasing decisions, and building the relationships they needed to build in the country with their ministries and with their other national higher education bodies, such as the Commission for University Education in Kenya. None of that's been easy. You've experienced that, we've all experienced that, but it has been remarkably successful. And I think what we've seen today is an incredible, it's a testament to how hard our partners have worked, and how you've continued to work with them to navigate some of these obstacles. There's a huge amount of energy and determination and talent that's been brought to bear here. We want to do two things now. We want to enable those countries which are able to make that transition, like some of those here today, to continue to secure the access they need at an affordable price. There's about 7 consortia we've been working with who are in that position. We want to continue to work with those who aren't quite there yet, so that they're prepared for the future to do that. So they continue to make progress, they continue to strengthen their structures and their executive groups, and build their knowledge and their networks in country. So you've seen some figures today. Alan talked particularly about this. Through our work with you, we calculate something like £77 million is the total value of the scholarship and the research which you collectively make available every year. And that's made available now to 40 countries, around 1,700 universities and research institutes and teaching hospitals, government agencies. And by working with you to bring those costs down and make them affordable and appropriate, it's made possible what simply wouldn't be otherwise. And to leverage that value for research and provide all the support and the training and the advice which we and others have been providing. That actually costs, in proportion to that, a relatively small amount. So we reckon it costs us about something like £200,000 a year to support this work. So although we've grown in recent years, we're still a relatively small organisation doing a lot of work in a very big world. And that's been enabled by the funding from the various governments I've mentioned, particularly from DFID and CEDA recently. But in 8.5 months, our current programme grant comes to an end, the end of March 2018. So that's would have been 15 years of work in this area. And so here's how I want to draw together this set of conversations today and the ones that have happened in previous years as a bit of an appeal to you and a call to action. If you value this and you want it to continue, help us to do that in the coming few months. Help us to enable the strongest consortia to make that transition and help us to continue to support future transitions in other consortia and countries. And I think there are two ways that you can help us here. And the first one is to mobilise. So mobilise your networks, talk to your colleagues, help them to understand what we're all trying to do here. There's been some great examples today from Springer and Taylor and Francis of how they've tried to make those connections work across the business. So from sales, editorial, a whole range of people who have an interest here, I think, are important to bring into this conversation. Talk to your senior teams as well. I think this is important too, that we can persuade those who make some of the important decisions here. But also, if you've got connections or ideas, come and talk to us. We'd really like to know any opportunities you see to continue this work, perhaps under different ways of funding it and thinking creatively about that for the future. And the second thing I'd like to ask you to do is to be as flexible and as patient as possible as our partners make this transition, because it won't be easy. There'll be speed bumps in the road ahead. So if there's any flexibility you can give on the sales side or the legal side with payment terms or licensing terms, that will help our partners negotiate this. So even where they've worked hard to collect the money as a consortium from the various institutions, sometimes there are inevitable bureaucratic delays which slow things down, and making payments on time just becomes difficult. And lots of those systems have been put in place to ensure that money does go to the right place and isn't lost along the way. But I also want to recognise that this is hard for you too, and it's not easy to make this change. And we really appreciate all the efforts you've been making here, and it's really encouraging some of the conversations we've been having lately to really see how you're trying to think flexibly and trying to bend the system a bit so that we can make this happen together. So we really appreciate that you've been getting to grips with some of the day-to-day constraints which we've been dealing with for many years as INASP in licensing, negotiation terms, payments, sole source letters, all of this kind of administrative stuff which goes on behind the scenes. And we know for all the goodwill, it won't necessarily be easy along the way, but it is possible. What you've seen today, I think, shows what really has been possible. So we can't and don't want to stop this process now, because it's important for those countries who are able to go directly and work with you, and because we want to be responsible and not commit to something which we're not funded to do indefinitely. But we do want to continue this work and support other consortia, other countries, if we can secure the funding to do so. So we'd be really happy to come and talk to you and some of your colleagues if we can help you make that case internally in different ways and explain the impact that your contribution can make. And Jon showed a deck of slides which we've prepared, which might help in some way towards that, and we'd appreciate any feedback. If we can secure this funding, and we're working really hard to do that, we want to continue working with our partners. We hope to be able to remain backstage, if you like, to help advise those consortia who've made that transition, support some of those relationships that are developing, make introductions where they're needed. We also want to continue running our online registration system, which is the kind of dashboard we have that enables you and the countries and the various institutions to make that process easier. And we want to continue working with that next group of countries so they can be in a stronger position in a few years' time. And this is where we really need your help to help us tell this story and really create a sense of the importance of this and make those connections in your publishing houses. And we think that if we can do this working together, we can safeguard access for the future, and we really can ensure global talent is available to address global challenges. So I really hope you share the same energy and enthusiasm and sense of what's possible here. We can make this happen and really show the global research and the development and the publishing communities what we can achieve by working together across our sectors and firms and perhaps silos in some cases. So thank you very much. We would like to take this conversation further, so please come and talk to us if you have any ideas and you can think of ways we can continue working together. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.